agitations are caused in missing or mismanaging time factor. And in today's scenario, it seems to be irrelevant. Do we need to change our approach or perception towards time? Now on. And how does it work towards pursuing the higher? Kindly clarify. What Shrikant is asking is, how does one manage the time in relation to the pursuit of the higher? Most of the time the agitations are, you have a time frame, but then you keep missing the time frame also. You have something to do and you have decided to do at that particular time, and you keep missing that time also. So the question is, how does it work towards pursuing the higher? சரியா Srikanth? Yeah. The fundamental formula in relation to managing time is time equals priorities. The formula, time equals priorities. So, managing time is nothing but managing one's priorities. More you manage your priorities, to that extent you will be able to manage your time. So, time management is nothing but management of your priorities. When it comes to the pursuit of the higher, when we say the pursuit of the higher as in liberation, moksha, in relation to the pursuit of the higher, it is nothing to do with an activity. It has got everything to do with changing the attitude behind the activity. There is no separate activity for the higher. You can't do a separate activity for the higher. Changing the attitude in your present activity is the way to get to the higher. Generally, what people misunderstand is, they think it is also a separate kind of an activity. It is not a separate kind of an activity because spiritual evolution or going to the higher is possible only by shift of attitude, not shift in action. And people go on shifting actions. Everybody wants to shift their action. Everybody wants to do something different. Vedanta comes and says, you can shift your action and it may be interesting and entertaining to you. But the higher cannot be achieved. And if you want to achieve the higher, whatsoever you are doing right now, you need to do that with a change of attitude. It means spiritual evolution equals change of attitude. Spiritual evolution is not change of activity. Spiritual evolution is change of attitude. If we say spiritual evolution is change of attitude, means the change of attitude requires X amount of knowledge and understanding. So it boils down to knowledge and understanding. Managing activities is in relationship to managing the priorities. Now, for example, you will be able to manage your activities only in relation to the goal that you have. You have a goal, that goal becomes your priority, and for that goal which is your priority, you realign, readjust all your other activities. It is about realigning and readjusting all other activities for that goal. It means it boils down to how convinced are you about that? How inspired are you to get there? How convinced are you to get there? The conviction can be the inspiration can be very ordinary, that once a week listening to the class itself, the person may feel very satisfied. I have done something very good. That's all. Rest of the time, nothing happens. Just the satisfaction of having listened to it once a week itself is enough. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, good or bad. The conviction is only to that extent. It can't be pursued any further. Then comes, when the conviction is stronger, when the conviction is more, then comes realigning some of your activities for this activity. When I say for Vedanta activity, what I mean is not the time that you dedicate for the class, the time that you dedicate for your own reflection, Manana. Because ultimately it is not the class that is going to bring the transformation, it is your own reflection that is going to bring the transformation. The class aids you, the books gives you enough material so that you can reflect. But transformation is possible only through self-reflection. Transformation happens only when you sit and do the reflection all by yourself. So, what you do, you fix a dedicated time for reflection. You fix a dedicated time for reflection. And when you fix the dedicated time, you don't compromise on that time for any other. You don't compromise on that time for any other activity. It means you are managing your time in relation to the higher. And I keep repeating in the sessions so many times, in this classes so many times, that the reflection time should not exceed an hour. Or you can't reflect more than an hour. Is impossible. In the sense, you can't exercise more than an hour. You can only exercise that much. You have a capacity to exercise, and you can only exercise to that extent. If you overstretch your capacity in exercise, you will collapse very soon. For example, you can read Harry Potter for 6 hours, 7 hours continuously. You can't take up a Bhagavad-Gita and you can't take up a Bhagavad-Gita and study for 7 hours, 8 hours. It doesn't work that way. Or if you have to study for 7 hours and 8 hours, you should have studied. This should have been your way of life, and you should have been doing only this over decades. Then it is possible. Most of the time, people get into this activity because of no other activity. When there is no other activity to do, sit and study this. Because in all other places, you are not wanted. This is the only place where you can come and listen. You keep listening. So it is not about listening. It is about sitting and doing your own reflection. And for reflection, what is important for reflection is the time factor. What is important for reflection is the time factor. 1 hour maximum. That's all. You don't reflect. You don't do reflection more than an hour. Rest of the time, you engage yourself in the other activities, and this 1 hour of reflection will make that activity more dynamic. That's all. This 1 hour of reflection will help you in doing those activities in a much much better way. To that extent, it works. Are you able to follow, Srikanth?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So,
reflection, does it involve introspection also?
Introspection is a discipline that you do in the night. Reflection is what you do in the morning. Introspection is what you do in the night. And again, one of the practical disciplines to bring the intellect alive is introspection. Introspection is you recollect the day's events mentally. You run through this mentally in quick succession. You don't sit and analyze anything. Again, just as we have kept 1 hour for reflection, you can't spend, you shouldn't be spending more than 3 minutes, 4 minutes on introspection. If you are spending more than 3-4 minutes, you have started to analyze. In introspection, you are not supposed to analyze. In introspection, it is nothing but a recollection of the day's activities. That's all. It's just a simple recollection. Without going into the merits of it as in good and bad, right and wrong. A recollection. So, introspection is what you do at the end of the day before you go to sleep. You start the day with reflection and you end the day with introspection. These are the two cardinal disciplines. These are the two essential disciplines. Start the day with reflection and end the day with introspection. So, in order to manage the time, a practical tip is keep one activity which is not compromised at all, and revolve all activities around that. Keep one activity. Keep one activity that is not compromised, meaning under any circumstances. When I say under any circumstances means we follow the value, we know. Supposing if I am having a very high temperature or somebody at home is getting a heart attack, now I will not say wait till I finish my reflection and come back. I will rush them to under those circumstances, I know how to value it. I know how to proportion it. The main factor is you keep one activity which is uncompromised, and all other activities will revolve around that. In that way, it becomes that much easy to manage in that way, management of time becomes easy. Because everything gets aligned by default. Instead of making the timetable for the whole day, keep one activity. Any one activity like study or exercise or any activity which is of your preference. Take up that activity and keep that as fixed.
Guruji.
From 6 to 7 I study, or 6 to 7 I exercise. So what do I do when I'm exercising 6 to 7? I don't attend to the phone. I don't attend to anything. I am fully focused on that one activity. So any activity that you fully focus on without distraction is a practical way of managing the time. Because for that activity, you will start mentally aligning all other activities. And what should be that single activity? We recommend keep reflection as that single activity. It is a recommendation. We are not saying do it. We will recommend keep reflection as that activity. And align all other activities with this reflection. Then what happens is, you would be able to effectively manage the time. I'm purely discussing it from the standpoint of the time management. I'm talking purely from the standpoint of growth only, spiritual growth only. I'm not discussing it from the standpoint of how does one manage the time as in listing out the priorities, keeping the timetable and sticking to the timetable. I'm not venturing in those direction at all, because all this you all know already. And all this to a very large extent everybody is practicing too. I am restricting this discussion of time in relation to a specific activity which is connected to the growth. Seriya? Ji, Solda?
When I fix my time for physical exercise.
Yes. Nada purila. Physical exercise?
How will I interest night eppadi uncle introspection pandrathu?
Okay. How to do introspection in the night? Right. Okay. Unakku edukada introspection illa? Introspection still get practice, still get used to it. Introspection is a practice. Whatever happened during the day, you quickly run through those activities mentally. That's the introspection. Why these two disciplines? First, adu purinjuko. Reflection strengthens your intellect. Introspection makes your existing intellect available. These are the two purposes. Introspection makes the existing intellect available. Reflection strengthens the intellect. Now, the first priority is, I won't say priority, first thing is I need to make my existing intellect available to me. Everybody has some intellect. It's not zero intellect. Supposing if a person has zero intellect, he will not be he will not be a human being in the first place. So everybody has some intellect in the scale from 0 to 100. Now, we are not concerned about how much of intellect you have. The point number one is your existing intellect must be available to you. How to ensure that your existing intellect is available to you? That is done through the process of introspection. And how do you do introspection? You start from the time you woke up. The first few days it will go like this. I woke up, brushed my teeth, went to had my breakfast. This about 7-8 activities only you will be able to remember, and then suddenly you will remember, oh my God, unnecessarily I fought with that fellow, unnecessarily I got frightened looking at somebody else. Now all this you become aware of. Over a period of time, what happens is, even before you are frightened, the intellect will come and say, why are you getting frightened? Even before you get angry, the intellect says, be careful. You are going to lose yourself. This is how introspection makes your existing intellect available. It becomes, it makes you aware of things which you tend to forget. For the idea is intellect should be available before the action. We have always said intellect can be available at 4 stages. In most of the people case, intellect is available after the action. Ellam panni mudichadukku appuram I should not have done that. Intellect available after the action, intellect available somewhere at the end of the action. Oh my God, what am I doing now? Intellect available somewhere in the middle of the action, intellect available before the action. Introspection makes the intellect available before the action. And this is how you do introspection. What do you do? Recollect the day's activities. Don't worry about it. It may look very mechanical in the beginning. It may look like you are only remembering it may look like you are only remembering the routine, the routine stuff. Don't worry about all that. Continue the practice. Over a period of time, by and large, you will start becoming aware of, your what you don't want to do and you helplessly do. Is the introspection. You don't want to do something and you helplessly do it because you are just driven into it. Intellect is not available before that. Introspection avoids this mistake. Are you able to follow?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't want to get angry, but I keep getting angry. How do I ensure that? Every day I resolve not to get angry. Next day I get more angry. Every day I resolve to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning only. So, intellect available after the action. So, what it means is, where introspection is a very important discipline is, it helps you in avoiding which you want to avoid. Everybody in their own personality will have a list of certain things that they don't want to do. First thing is to ensure that what you think you should not do, you should be able to control that first. Before mastering the higher things and all, I don't want to do a few things and I should be able to do that. What discipline will help you do that? Introspection helps you. This is how introspection is essential discipline, and this is how you actually do introspection.
Guruji,
Yes.
Yeah, Surda.
இன்டெலெக்ட் வந்து ஆக்ஷனுக்கு முன்னாடி தான் இருக்கணும்.
Yes.
ஆனா எடுத்தோடனே அது வராது. ஆக்ஷனுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் இன்டெலெக்ட் இருக்கும். நம்ம யோசிச்சு பார்ப்போம்.
Correct.
நைட் இன்ட்ரோஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணும்போது அதெல்லாம் ஞாபகம் வரும்போது இதெல்லாம் பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு நினைப்போம்ல.
Yes.
அப்ப வந்து அத நோட்ஸ் மாதிரி எடுத்துக்கிட்டு டெய்லியும் காலையில இருந்துச்சு அதை மனனம் பண்ணணும்.
அது நீ வந்து நைட் இன்ட்ரோஸ்பெக்ஷன் பண்ணதுல எடுத்த டெசிஷன்ல அடுத்த நாள் உட்காந்து மனனம் பண்ணக்கூடாது. மனனம் பண்றது கிளாஸ்ல என்ன சொல்லி கொடுக்குறாங்களோ அதை மனனம் பண்ணணும். What Jeev is saying is, he is reflecting, he is doing introspection in the night and he comes up with the list. Next day morning, should he work on those lists? அது பண்ணக்கூடாது. எப்போதுமே if you start doing that, you will start becoming very result oriented. You will be too much of focus on yourself. You will be like, oh, am I growing? Am I doing the right thing? You will get into too many complications. So observe பண்ணிட்டு விட்டுறணும் அது. Introspection is a discipline where you observe and ignore it. You don't sit and after observing it, you don't sit and analyze it. Just leave it. Because 80-85% of our problems is handled by ignoring only. You have a headache, you ignore the headache and continue to do your work. You follow what I am saying? Most of the problems are dealt with by somebody makes a remark about you. What is the best way of dealing it? Not going and asking them, why did you say that about me? Or you sitting and crying in the room all by yourself, how can they talk about me like that? What is the ideal way of doing it? Just ignore it and keep going. So introspection is a discipline where it helps you to observe and ignore. It's a training. Where it is too repetitive, where it is hurting you repeatedly again and again and again, that you bring it up. Are you able to follow? On everyday basis that you do this introspection and all, don't bring it back. Just leave it. If something is too repetitive, over a period of years, you are observing something in you. அதெல்லாம் உனக்கு இன்னும் வயசே ஆகலடா, அதனால கவலை இல்லை உனக்கு. Yeah. Over a period of years, you are observing something in you, and you see all this and other. You have to be careful. Right now, what you do, you observe and ignore. You observe and ignore. It is the rule for everybody. For most of the people, I will say, observe and ignore. For most of the problems are best solved by ignoring, by letting it go. Ignoring, what I mean by ignoring is letting it go. Somebody makes a remark, let it go. You have something not going your way, just let it go. Even they shall pass away. Even they shall pass away. அவ்வளவுதான். சரியாடா?
Yes.
ஜீவ். ஓகேவா? Right.
You have already given a guideline also.
Yes.
Based on gunas, the time schedule, like early morning is Sattvic time, Rajasic.
Correct.
So we will align our activities based on those.
Yes, align. Correct. Yes, exactly correct. Align your activity for reflection, as in reflection is best done in the Sattvic time. Why reflection is best done in the Sattvic time is because there is a natural support. There is a natural support. Nature itself supports you. Throughout the day we will be thinking. It's not that thinking is restricted only in the early hours of the morning. Throughout the day we are thinking. But the thinking will be very penetrative in the early hours of the morning. What can be done in 5 hours can be achieved in 1 hour in the morning. That is why we always have this Brahma Muhurta time for reflection. The Brahma Muhurta time for reflection is the ideal time for reflection. The Brahma Muhurta starts from don't get scared about the timings. It starts roughly around 3:40 and ends by 5:20. But you don't have to worry about 3:40. Even if you can manage between 5 and 6. Even if you can manage between 5 and 6. Rekha, sir, I am sitting in Norway where it doesn't work at all because sun doesn't come only. Then what do I? Then what do I do? Give 2 whacks to Raj and pack up and come back. Nothing. Give him 2 whacks. That's all. He'll be all right. Because he is in Norway. She will say, where is this? Sun doesn't come only, or it doesn't go only. Then what do I? Either it doesn't come or it doesn't go. Then what do we do? What it means is there is a natural time. There is a natural time. Because, see, why it is so natural is because of this. There will not be a tendency to indulge in the morning. Like, for example, you study at 10 o'clock in the night. You study at 11 o'clock in the night. You will feel like having a pizza and finger chips and studying, Coke and studying. You study at 5:30 in the morning. You will not feel like having any one of this. You can sit and study just straight. To that extent, distractions as in indulgences you don't need. As you tend to go during the day, you need supporting factor. Like even if you wake up at 4:30, you will feel like having the coffee at 6 o'clock only. You will not go and make the coffee first. Naturally, the indulgences are less. That is why we say use that time for reflection, because it's the support of the nature, and your clarity is also very high. but you have to get used to do it over a period of time. It will not come in few weeks. It will not come in few weeks. It will take a few months to get used to this pattern. And once you get used to this pattern, you are all right. I would recommend 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, because 3:30, 3:45 you can do only if you can have the luxury of resting in the afternoon. If you can have the luxury of resting in the afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock and all is all right. If you can't have the luxury of resting in the afternoon, 4 o'clock is not there, because over a period of time you will start slowing down, because that sharpness will reduce. Therefore, safer for most of the people who are coming to these classes and the sessions, I would say safely is 5 o'clock. Seriya? Seriya? Jeev? हाँ. Venkatachalam. Can you, reflection as a discipline, can you please suggest a process or an approach to reflect effectively? How does one reflect effectively? First thing is, knowledge has two parts. One is that which you have understood, another one where you have doubts. It has two parts always. Some part of it is always, some part of it will be clear, some part of it you will have some doubts. Now, what is reflection? Reflection is that which you have understood, you go over it again and again. Where you have a doubt, you clarify the doubt. You try and clarify it by yourself first. That's the best work. You try and clarify it by yourself first, and wherever it doesn't help you, you come and clarify it But the first attempt must be to do clarification by oneself. Then only you are, this is the effective way of exercising. You have a doubt, so you try and clarify it within yourself, and sometimes you will be satisfied, sometimes you will still feel something is missing. That you can always clarify it that you can always do it in the classroom. So what is reflection? To go back again, some portion of it would be understood. That portion what you have understood, you go over it again. That is where you find Vedantic knowledge is repetitive. You will not find new concept discussed every day. It is the same concepts that is repeated again and again and again. If something you are finding new every week, then it is not Vedanta. Vedantic knowledge, maybe some new explanation would be given. Maybe some new words would be taught. Maybe some new way of saying would be there. But the concepts do not change. Concepts are repetitive, cyclical. That's why some of the people who say, sir, I am joining in between, I have missed so much. What will happen? We said, don't worry, just continue. Over a period of time, you will know everything. Because it is not like you coming in, like for example, if you are joining in at the 5th chapter of the Gita, for the first 2 weeks, you will find it difficult to follow. After that, you know that it is the same thing that is being reinforced again and again and again. Therefore, you will really not miss in the sequence is not a lot as in other subjects. Like for example, you can't go to multiplication without knowing addition. In mathematics, first thing is you need to know addition before you go into multiplication. Before you go, you need to know multiplication before you go into algebraic equations. You need to know algebraic equations before you go into trigonometry. Now, it doesn't go like that here. It is the same concepts that is reinforced again and again and again. Therefore, you will never miss anything. So, in reflection, what do? You understand that this knowledge is something that is repetitive by nature. Since this knowledge is something that is repetitive by nature, some portion of it will be clear, some portion of it will be, you will have some doubts. So, how does one manage? Where you have understood, you go over it again and again and again. This is step number 1. Now step number 2 I am saying. Step number 2 is, step number 2 la 2A, 2B, 2C in potukongo. It becomes easy. 2A, 2B, 2C. First is, try and gather the general concept. First is, try and gather the general concept. Like for example, Bhagavad-Gita has everything in it. Yeah. Bhagavad-Gita has everything in it. As I said some time back, what to eat, what not to eat in the menu plan, you will find it in Bhagavad-Gita. But then, first you get the basic concept of Bhagavad-Gita. What is the basic concept of Bhagavad-Gita? Moksha Shastra. The Shastra for liberation. It's a Moksha Shastra. That is the basic concept. So first you get the basic concept. And having gotten the basic concept, you go into the 2B. You go into the individual things that we talk. 2C is, you take up the word and try to understand. So one is understanding the concept, second is understanding the verse, third one is understanding the word in the verse. All the three. For example, as I said, like for example, if I take up a verse, like in the Bhagavad-Gita which you have seen me write through, first I will give the basic concept of the verse. Then I will take up I will break the sentences into 3-4. Then I will go into the individual words that connect. I will demonstrate it now. Sasangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktihi. Is the verse. The concept of the verse is steps for moksha. That's the concept of the verse. I'm just taking this as I'm just randomly in the Vasa memory gondadipu. Sasangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktihi. You take this verse. First you get the concept of the verse. What is the concept of the verse? Progressive steps to moksha. What are the progressive steps to moksha? That is going into the breakdown of the verse now. What is the breakdown of the verse? The breakdown of the verse is satsang, sasangatve, nissangatvam. Good association leads to this. Nissangatve, nirmohatvam. When you have the right company, delusion is gone. Nirmohatve, nischalatatvam. When delusion is gone, you become steady. Nischala. Nischalatatve, jivan muktihi. Once you are steady, then you are fit for moksha. That is breaking it down into the individual steps. Now the general concept itself can satisfy a few. Saying these 4 steps itself can satisfy a few. Then 2C. Now what is 2C? What is satsang? You go into the you go into the details of what satsang is. Then you go into the details of what is satsangatve nisangatvam. Satsang leads to detachment. This leads to the next. So you go into the individual words and connect everything. Then you see the sequence. Otherwise, it will look like in the Mari reflection bundle, Though something good we hear, in the good things that we hear, 1 or 2 things we will pick it up, which is useful for life also, and we will move. Venkatachalam's question is how to do reflection effectively. How do you do reflection effectively? Take the verse, I'm repeating again, take the verse and get a concept. Like, I'll give you another example. Guru Charanambuja Nirbara Bhaktaha Samsara Dajiradbhava Muktaha Chendriya Manasa Niyama Devam Drakshesi Hridayastam Devam in Bhaja Govinda. Now, there the concept is Guru Charanambuja Nirbara Bhaktaha. There, we went into detailed elaboration of that. Because that is the concept there. So what is effective reflection? You get the concept and then you break it down and you further break it down into words. In Sanskrit, it is called Pada, Krama, Mimamsa. In Sanskrit, it is called Pada, Krama, Mimamsa. Krama na order. Krama na order. Akrama we say, no? What is akrama? There is nothing in order. One day, the fellow is supposed to be on the desk at 10 o'clock. The work. He has to punch in at 9:45 and start the work at 10 o'clock. You go there, even 10:30, that fellow has not come to the seat. You say, akrama, sir. What is akrama means? Akrama, where there is no orderliness. So first thing is Mimamsa. Mimamsa means the concept. This is the classic Vedantic way of studying. This is the classic Vedantic way of reflecting. I'm just saying the Sanskrit version. Generally, I don't use the Sanskrit word a lot, but still for whatever it's worth, use that also. Mimamsa is the concept. Then comes the Krama. Krama means the breaking up the sentences, the sequence. Then comes the Pada. Pada means the word. In some verses, why do you need to do all these 3? Because you can get the concepts easily, but the Krama is very challenging. More than challenging is the Pada, because in every verse there will be a root word. Bhur-bhuvasvaha tatsuvidurvarenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yo nah prachodayat is the Gayatri. Now, what is the catch in that? The pada that is critical to the entire mantra is the word the. The word the means buddhi, intellect. Now, only if you do deeper reflection, you will be able to come to this conclusion. Otherwise, you can know the general meaning. What is the general meaning? Asking for praying to sun god. What is Gayatri mantra? Prayer to sun god. Satisfaction. Oh, there is a prayer to sun god. That itself can satisfy you. Then comes, what is that prayer? Dhiyo yo nah prachodayat. And what is the intellect? When you come to the pada portion only, you will understand how you don't pray only for your intellect, you are praying for the intellects of everybody. That is why the most selfless prayer that you can utter is Gayatri Mantra. That's why in the Vedic tradition we have such an extraordinary value for Gayatri Mantra, and everybody is supposed to say this Gayatri Mantra, and there is no caste restriction for all this. Anybody and everybody can say this Gayatri Mantra, because it is a prayer, a universal prayer for the intellects, for everybody. It's not only, you don't say, let my intellect be sharp. You are saying, our intellect. Our intellects means the loka, the totality. Now, this is how, once you know how to study in this pattern, you are reflecting well. This is how you reflect well. And now you can't do all this by yourself. The aid comes to you from the classes and the textbooks. The classes, the textbooks gives you the aid. That is why I follow this system. First I will say the broad outline of the verse, broad concept. Then we break it up. Then we further break it down. Some verses there is a catch, that one word. And we catch that word. Then, if you are following this method of study, you are doing what is known as Manana, reflection. 1, 2A, 2B, 2C solliyachu. Ipo 3. The third thing is, which is what slightly more challenging, which is what we all should aspire for. Hear a lot and try to mentally work it out. Hear a lot and try to mentally work it out. It will be difficult, but it is not possible. It is not impossible. Because there are people who say, if I write it down only, I am comfortable. Otherwise, I am missing the points. Vedanta says, don't worry, you will not miss the points, because the same thing is going to be repeated again and again and again. You will not miss anything. But the anxiety, the greed makes you to believe that you are going to miss. You are not going to miss anything. Because the same thing is repeated again. So what do? You do Shravanam a lot. And then what do? Next day, you try and recollect it mentally. As much as you can recollect mentally, you do that. Why? Because what you are able to recollect mentally is what you have absorbed. Absorption is different, memory is different. Reflection in the distinction purino, correct. Absorption is different, memory is different. In this classroom, we are not interested in increasing your memory. We are focused on absorption. Again I repeat, what you can recollect mentally is what you have
noted down.
Absorbed, is what has gone into you. Rest of the things goes into your memory. Rest of the things go into the memory. Now, beyond a point, memory is very dangerous. Memory is very good for worldly activities. When it comes to philosophy and religion, absorption is necessary. A mathematics teacher can be a very superstitious person, because there he needs to know only the mathematics, he needs to know the concepts and memorize it and teach it. That much only we are interested. We are not interested whether he is absorbed it or not. Are you able to follow the difference? We are not interested whether he is able to absorb it or not. We are not interested in that. When it comes to Vedanta, we are not interested in the memory knowledge. We are interested in how much have you absorbed. And absorption is possible through internalizing it. Memory is also internal. No, that's where people misunderstand this. How many ever times we say people don't understand this. And I don't get tired of repeating it also. Just because you have memorized doesn't mean you have internalized. There is a difference. Just because you have memorized doesn't mean you have internalized. What is the difference between memorizing and internalizing? Memory tells you that you should not get angry. Memory tells you that you should not indulge. But you will still get angry and you will still keep indulging. It means internalizing. Absorption has not happened. Now we are focused on how to absorb. We are interested in transformation of the personality, not in memory. That is why we say sitting and writing elaborate notes and this and all that is very fine. All that is very good. It is like marriage album. So much of effort is put for marriage album and not seeing it for the rest of the life. To an extent where we won't even know where the marriage album is now. But on the day of marriage, what amount of effort and interest is done for that? And then later on you ask, where is that photo? Sir, idella poi paakuradhukku enna irukudhu? Yeah, because you don't even want now. The notes beyond a point, memory beyond a point becomes like marriage album where it is gathering dust. Nobody, you will not be revisiting it at all. So beyond a point, it doesn't help. So what is the third step to Manana? 1, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3. The third step to Manana is Shravana. You hear it a lot. That is why frequently we meet. Why do we meet so frequently? Because you need to do a lot of Shravana. And you do the Shravana. And next morning what you do? You make an effort to recollect. In the effort to recollect is where your intellect is strengthening. Otherwise, only your memory capacity is increasing. And what is memory? Memory is knowing the words, repeating the words without understanding what it means. That is memory. Ramanuja, I'm talking about the mathematician, Ramanujan. He said, he never went to school, no? Or the schooling that he went to is very minimal. But the complexity of his problems went to a very high. But the complexity of the problems went to a very, very high level. I'm just using him as an example. Now, one thing is to sit and memorize the mathematics. There are so many people who do that, no? I know, because I also used to be a bit interested in mathematics and all that. Some of my friends, they will memorize the sums and come. By heart the sums and come. And what is memory means? As soon as you finish and get out, you will go blank. That is memory. Biology used to be memory for me. Before I go into the class, I'll remember everything. And the final year exam would to well on the one. If I open the biology book, it will look so fresh to me. It's memory. Nothing is internalized. Are you able to follow? In philosophy, that kind of knowledge is not important, or it will not help you in transformation. Therefore, what is important for us here? Absorption. And absorption happens through Shravana and you mentally recollecting it. It will be difficult. Initially, it will be very difficult. Initially, you will feel like you are missing a lot. Points and all is missing, and without all the points, how will I do the thinking and all that? You need not worry, because if you are consistent in the classes and listening again and again and again, you know the same points are covered again and again and again. It's not new. The concepts are not new. The concepts are the same. These are the ways in which you can effectively reflect. Is it okay? Venkatachalam?
Yes, thank you so much. Very, very clear.
Yeah, these are the 3 steps vechukkonga. That's the basic 3 steps now vechukkonga. Seriya?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, yes.
Like you have to sit and recollect and write down the notes. Huh?
Yes.
But even to recollect, you need memory. Without memory, you cannot recollect. So how do you distinguish between memory and absorption thing?
Yes.
How is it possible? How do you like what I'm doing is due to absorption which is happening, or it is due to memory which is happening?
What Ranjani is asking is, even to recollect the next morning you need memory. அடுத்த நாள் கார்த்தால உட்கார்ந்து ரீகலெக்ட் பண்ணனும்னா கூட you need memory. Correct? With I didn't say don't use memory at all. I didn't say that. I said, carefully follow. I said, in memory, something stays, something gets evaporated. Some portion is retained, some portion gets evaporated. That portion which gets evaporated is not absorbed. That which you have retained is what is that which you are able to recollect the next morning is what is actual absorption is. From what you have absorbed, your intellect can build upon. That's reflection. What you have absorbed, your intellect would be able to build upon it. Where you are not able to build upon it, the next class helps, the next study helps. Are you able to follow? It's not that you have absorbed and then you are just leaving at that. What you have absorbed is what you use as the springboard for the intellect to go deeper. Therefore, what happens when you have done that work and next week you listen? What happens? Your absorption becomes more. Your absorption becomes more. Over a period of time, wherever you are, whatever you do, this knowledge will be running in the background. Wherever you are, whatever you do, this knowledge will be running in the background. But if this knowledge is running in the background, will it not be disturbing, sir? Adallam disturb avadu. Just as very good example I heard long back. The Acharya giving this. He said, see, you are taking the train and going to Bombay, let us say. In between, you will get down at one station. You see the magazines that you want to buy. You give the money. You take the correct change. All the transaction happens. Without any problem. In and through the transaction, one part of you is very much aware of what? How long the train is going to stop there. You will not say, I was buying the magazine and missed the train. You will not do that. I was buying the magazine and forgot to take the change. You will not do that. So, this knowledge, what it does, if you do it in the way that I suggested, over a period of time, this knowledge will be there in the background 24/7, which is what we are all aspiring for. We say, I want this knowledge to be with me all the time. I want this knowledge to be with me all the time. How will this knowledge be with you all the time? Only if you follow this method. What is the method? You absorb. When you absorb, after absorption, it goes and gets stored in memory. Memory, carefully follow, the human memory is so dangerous. It can get stored without absorbing. It can get stored with absorption. Without absorption also memory can be stored in the memory. As in a philosophy professor. He can give such a wonderful lecture. At the end of the lecture, he is the one who is maximum affected and disturbed. Okay, take the person who is giving a one-day seminar on the ill effects of smoking. I have given this example many a times. Imagine a guy who gives a one-day seminar on the ill effects of smoking. He is so worried, he is so tensed about organizing everything, he is so tense and all that. Now everything is set up well. The very good group has also come, and the group is also listening to him very intently. All that gives him such a satisfaction. At the end of the first session, he is the one who is picking up the cigarette first. How bad, everything went well today. Oof, he's doing. And what is the whole day he spoke? Ill effects of smoking. Listening to him, quite a few have quit smoking. But this fellow continues to smoke. It means what? He has not. He has the memory of it. Otherwise, how is he able to talk? But then, Vedantic knowledge is useless if it goes into the memory without absorption. Are you able to follow the difference? For a human being has this problem. What is the problem? He can talk even without knowing anything. Even without understanding, he can talk. Einstein said, it's very, very deadly and dangerous in a human being. What? A person can talk on a subject and not know a word of what he is talking. He said a person can talk and yet not know a word of what he is talking. And if you look at the world, most of the people belongs to this category only. In the play Hamlet, the Polonius, the minister, comes and asks Hamlet, what are you reading? He says, words. All these are empty, meaningless words because it has not brought about a transformation. Now the question is, by reading 10 more books, by increasing your memory, transformation is not going to happen. Then how will transformation happen? When you do Shravana, when you are listening, imagine that. See, are you able to understand that complicated commentaries came through oral tradition? Not through Ipadana typing books. Complicated commentaries came through oral tradition, not just the verses. Complicated commentaries came through oral tradition. How were they able to maintain it, everything? Because when they heard, they took a stance that there is no other aid to store the knowledge except me. இப்போ வந்து நோட் புக் இருக்குது, பென் இருக்குது, வீடியோ ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்குது, ஆடியோ ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்குது இல்லையா? இப்போ இது வீடியோ ரெக்கார்டிங் வேற, ஆடியோ ரெக்கார்டிங்கே தேவையில்லை. On top of it, video record. So when so much is available, what goes out? Absorption goes out. Because the intellect becomes lazy. It's not alert. Why it is not alert while listening? Because it knows that notes la idu vechikalam, recording already irukudhu, miss aan edutha apdiye we will go back and redo. You don't do all this. So what do you do? I remember, I have given this example before. I remember the very first class in the academy started, as we were started writing notes. Halfway through the class, he stopped and said, what are you doing? Writing notes. He said, am I dictating notes or what? Am I dictating something for you to go on writing? I am teaching. Close it and listen. Whatever you can recall the next morning is what has gone into you. Use that and build up. That's what exercising the intellect is. That's what reflection is. You keep everything as the point, the notes. Now, that kind of training is lost. Today, training is more of books and notes and reference books. And I'm not saying don't use all this. We are not saying don't use all this. It's not about not using this. It is about upon using them a lot, Vada Ishwar. Upon using them a lot, your knowledge your knowledge increases. Are you able to follow? Upon using them a lot, your knowledge increases. When I say your knowledge increases, as in absorption, as in absorption, not through memory. Are you able to follow? Through absorption it increases, not through the memory. And what we are interested in this class is to increase the absorption capacity. How do I absorb it? My alertness is so high in the present when I know that I am not going to refer it anywhere. Next morning I am going to refresh my memory and work backwards. You become very alert. Shravanale Manana starts. In Shravana itself, Manana starts. How in Shravana itself Manana starts? The alertness with which you listen. The alertness with which you listen, after a few days also you will be able to recollect. When he speaks, I listen to it so intently that if you ask me to repeat later, I can recollect every word. Verbatim I can recollect. Mentally I can recollect. Mentally I will recollect. And it is not natural. You have to train yourself to it. You have to work. You have to train yourself to it. But the intellectual fatigue tires you a lot. Therefore, the intellectual laziness comes in very fast. It is being lazy at the level of the intellect. Are you able to follow? Memory is working, but is the knowledge going into the memory after absorption, or it is just going into the memory without absorption? The challenge is we are filtering it through the intellect, absorption, and then the memory. Is it okay? Narayan, why do all the students and academies still pen down every word of what Swamiji speaks? They are not listening to what he's saying. He's saying don't write notes. He keeps saying don't write, listen. And they write listen, they write. Yeah. When he's saying listen, no, you should listen. I listen. What is the problem? What is the point? And he, now beyond the point, he also gives up, kind of. He doesn't give up like that, kind of, in a very loose way. Because even during the thing, he keeps saying, don't write, listen. Don't write, listen. Everybody comes and says, no, sir, don't write, listen. Don't write in a book of Mudano. Yeah, don't write. What to do? So he doesn't. He's a very he's a very effective traditional teacher. So he explains the method very clearly. Some of us follow that. Some of us because we take him very seriously, no. We take him so seriously that we want to follow everything that he says. So what we stopped right now, all my 3-year notes, if you see, will be restricted only to this much, a few pages only. Rest of the notes is what I sat and recollected and I wrote mentally. It was never taken in the class. It will be recollected and rewrote. Recollect and I write. You follow? That's the way it has to be. This is the way this is the way you have to do Manana reflection. Now, Shweta, how to conquer the 6 enemies of human buddhi, with Manana technique. Shweta is asking how to conquer the 6 enemies of human buddhi with recollection, Manana technique. The reference to the 6 enemies that she is giving is Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya. These are the 6 enemies that she is referring to. What are the 6 enemies? Kama, desire. Kama, desire. Then comes Krodha, anger, Lobha, greed, Mada, arrogance, Matsarya, envy, Bhaya, fear. These are the 6 enemies. Now what she is asking is how to conquer them with Manana technique. How do you conquer them with Manana technique? This is how you can conquer it. Able to connect all these as able to connect, you are able to connect all these 5, the Krodha, the Moha, the Mada, the Matsarya, the Bhaya. All this you are able to connect, all this you are able to correlate it to the desire first. That is why we give the formula. Desire. Before Kama comes what? Ignorance. So you start from there again and again and again. You start. What is it? What is the cause for desire? What is the root for desire? Ignorance is the root for. Ignorance is the cause. Ignorance is the root for desire. And what is desire? Raga and Dvesha. Desire is a general word. Raga Dvesha is that which is specific to you. Everybody has a desire to eat food. Raga Dvesha is specific to you. You like to eat a particular type of food, not like to eat another type of food. So, Raga Dvesha. And this Raga Dvesha is what grossifies itself as these 5. And what are the consequences of these 5? By repeated doing this again and again and again, it's not just once or twice you hear and you can internalize it. You go over it again and again and again. By doing this manana, suddenly one day it will strike to you. What it will strike to you? All along, you are the one who is causing harm to yourself by keeping these desires with you. That day, reflection has found its utility. Suddenly one day it will strike to you at the core. What is the core? These likes and dislikes is what you are keeping it within yourself, and nobody is responsible for this except your own self. Generally speaking, to err is human. Yeah, we say that, no? To err is human. Actually, to err is not human. To blame the other for that is what human is all about. We all make mistakes and so instantaneously blame so instinctively, so instantaneously blame the other for that. Yeah. So to err is human. To blame the other for your error is human. Are you able to follow? Now, when you do this reflection again and again and again, over a period of time, you will realize that these are that which is sitting inside you, causing your own destruction. What is important, since Shweta brought up this point, I am saying this. What is important is, as I do manana, as I do reflection, that which makes the knowledge stabilize is the rest of the day I need to do karma yoga. Just understanding this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, bhaya is all coming from likes and dislikes. Repeatedly you hear it 10 times, it will go into your memory, but it will not help you in dealing with any of this. You will still be a victim of all this only. It means what? There is something vital is also missing. What is vital? What is vital for Manana? During that day, performing karma yoga. It's not performing karma, it is performing karma yoga. Another factor which is distinct and different from Manana, which is the aid for Manana, is karma yoga. How does it help? I'll quickly explain how it helps. It is like the process of extracting ghee. You know that process of extracting ghee from the milk. Karma yoga is, what is that? You gain knowledge. You gain knowledge. Little bit of knowledge you gain. That is what is the knowledge that you gain from the classes. You put it in the milk, which is what we call as the jamu. You put in the milk. And then what do? You don't keep stirring it the whole time. After getting little bit of knowledge, that after adding little bit of curd to the existing milk, what is done? What is done? It is allowed to set. Karma yoga allows it to set. Otherwise, whole day you keep studying. Whole day you keep reading. What are you doing? You are, even before it can settle, you are stirring it. Therefore, next day, Manana will not be that effective. Are you able to follow? Therefore, how does one deal with these? How does one deal with these 6 enemies of human being? Through reflection. You go through the analysis, you go through the study of what is taught, and then once the reflection period is over, you close it and immediately get into karma yoga. Getting into karma yoga is what is allowing the milk to settle, to turn into solid curd. Next day, again you churn it. Next day, again you churn it. And when you churn it, what happens? The butter floats. The butter comes on top. It floats. Collect that butter. Leave it separately. Again, you don't do anything to it. You collect the butter and keep it separately. Repeated practice like this over a period of time, you will have enough butter to boil it into a ghee. And once it turns into ghee, it is permanent. Once it turns into ghee, it is permanent. What people do is, in the anxiety of wanting to learn faster and more, they miss the karma yoga part completely. They want to study more and more, read more and more and more. As I said in the beginning, novels you can read 6-7 hours of novel you can read. But reflection you can't do a lot. If you are able to do a reflection a lot, means you have reached the stage of nididhyasana, meditation. That's a meditative state, which is not our current level. Therefore, how does one, using the process of reflection, conquer the 6 enemies? Do the study portion for whatever the prescribed study hour is. Rest of the time, you have to keep it aside. Just as you keep the milk aside to settle. Every half an hour, if you are checking it, now what will happen? It will not settle. So karma yoga is keeping it aside. Therefore, how does one how does one do this? The discipline of reflection and the discipline of karma yoga. The discipline of reflection and the discipline of karma yoga combined is what will help you to get rid of the 6 enemies. Because how does one get rid of the 6 enemies? To get rid of the 6 enemies, the combined practice of Manana and karma yoga. Manana and karma yoga is what is practical. Only karma yoga without manana is useless. Only manana and not doing karma yoga again is of no use. You need to balance both. And once you balance both and you manage both, you would be able to conquer the 6 enemies. Is it okay, Shweta?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With this, we conclude for today and we continue the discussion on Dhriti from next week.